thank you for sitting down with us today, and I just want to introduce Matt May, the president of Core Group Resources, Master Chief, and head of SEAL Team 8. We're honored to have you at the company. It's been an honor to work with you here at the company as well, and just tell us a little bit about your past, where you've come from, and how you got here today.
So I retired in 1989, and about a year prior to getting out, for every veteran, it's the decision, okay, what am I going to do when I get out of the military is kind of one of the hardest things. What do I qualify for? What do I want to be when I grow up, basically, because you're starting all over. And I'd been in 25 years, so the only thing I ever did was be a Navy SEAL. Not a whole lot of transferable skills per se, unless you want to be a police officer or something like that. But I knew that I wanted to go in business and either run my own business or work for a company that that's growing, etc. And I would say one of the key things was networking, which I did not take full advantage of when I was in the military. That definitely helped for later years in life. But when I retired, I came out here to Houston. I helped start a nonprofit to actually help veterans get into oil and gas. It's still around to this day, called Next Stop Vets. They do a phenomenal job. But that was actually my first foray into the recruiting and staffing industry.
Yeah, it's well, we're glad to have you. I know you joined us back in 2021. Yeah. Just to peel the layers back, in my business group, I had some interviews go on inside of the company and saying, hey, you really need another Matt here, because if you get hit by a bus, you're the rainmaker and this all could go away. And about a month later, Matt May walks in, Navy SEAL, and we start talking, and I was like, hey, we're scaling, and then you came on board, and it's been incredible. So joining a small company that's scaling really quickly, walk us through what that experience was like for you as you entered into the company.
So, my background, when I was in the Navy, I started a few restaurants. So I kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset, and I understood, how to grow a small organization, or at least how to get it started, et cetera, and hiring staff, and, where's your market, where's your revenue coming from, et cetera. When I got out, I started a nonprofit in recruiting and staffing. Doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit or a legit for-profit company. All the processes are the same in terms of taxes and setting up the paperwork and hiring staff and making sure your processes are in place, etc. And then I went from there to work for another Norwegian company that was just starting here in the U.S. And again, it was kind of like a whole startup all over again. And then I worked for a company out of New Jersey, small company trying to grow in the oil and gas industry, first employee in Texas for them, in renewable energies, ended up starting my own company, and then unfortunately COVID, won't get into all those details, but kind of nuked that company, and then I was fortunate enough to come to Core Group Resources within a sales capacity. Timing, I think, is everything. It was perfect. I mean, you and I have known each other almost as long as I've been in Texas, and I've watched your company grow, and I actually came to you initially to help me find another, company to work in, and then, the decision was made.
Yeah, I kept trying to place you, and you're like, hey, I think I want to work there. I'm like, okay, well, we'll.
So the opportunity to grow, and it was fast. I mean, we grew real quick, and it's, still fun to this day. I love coming here.
Yeah, and when you came on board, obviously you're a super hard worker, brought a lot of structure. From me being in the startup world for essentially my entire career, the structure and that leadership you've brought in the organization has been profound for me personally, because managing a 250 person SEAL team, doing tactical missions and executing projects. You mentioned to me trusting the air gaps, as you would call it, inside the organization, and that's where I really started to feel your leadership structure enter Core Group Resources. Can you talk about like the structuring and just trusting the air gaps and bringing structure? Because we were kind of an amoebic nebulous when you joined, and when you came in to bring team structure, I felt it, but can you go into that a little bit?
I mean, within, you know, veterans, and yes, I can speak to the SEAL community, and yes, all of them are more or less type A personalities. They want leadership. They want to own, you know, their piece of whatever they're responsible for, and they look for those leadership opportunities within any organization. But I would say that's pretty much inherent in most veterans that you would look to hire, regardless what service or what their job was. The veteran community, the military breeds leadership. I mean, it's the whole point of it, and they thrust leadership opportunities on you from a very, very young age. You know, for a low lieutenant, or what they say a captain in the Army is an 03, could be in 2 to 3 years is already going to have about 100 to 150 people under them, you know, that they have to manage, and budgets and everything else associated with that. So really it's the ownership aspect of going into a company, and I would think that most leaders within those organizations would want that. They need people to come in and take certain portions of that workload off of their plate so they can scale and grow. And when I came in, we were about 15 people. And, you know, as an owner and a CEO of a company looking to grow, you can't be doing the sales, the contracts, the legal, the recruiting, and everything across the board. You've got to have people that will come in and take that from you, basically almost by force, because you don't always want to give that stuff up as a business owner. But you've got to trust your people to be able to come in. But they have to prove themselves as well.
Yeah, yeah. And about, I'll call it 2 years in, 2023, April 2023, we gave you the reins as president of Corporate Resources, which you were VP of sales and running the sales organization, but president. Moving into that, and you and I moved into a visionary integrator relationship using the traction system. Walk us through when I said to you, hey, are you sure you want this job? And you're like, yeah, I do. Walk me through that transition, what that was like for you, and as you started to peel more work off of me.
I mean, I'd been in sales ever since I retired. The first position I got was within sales for TampNet, and you know, I told the guy who hired me, I said, you do understand that I have 0 sales experience. And he's like, well, that's what I'm hiring for. You don't have any bad habits. So I was like, okay, I'm going to run with it. It served me well. I was there for 3 years, and then obviously other organizations. When I came here, you know, revenue drives everything in the growth of an organization. So we grew fast. And at a certain point, you know, you would ask me to take on the role of president, and, you know, for anybody, at least the individuals I know, they're going to jump at the chance, you know, so I appreciate the trust and everything with that. Trusting and helping you build the team of the managers we have, and then I have to do the same thing. You know, I'm asking you to trust me, and then I've got to trust the managers, because I can't do everything also. Trust but verify, they say. Yeah. But now all of our managers have been in the seat for, you know, a while, in letting them, you know, take those reins, and you as the CEO of the company trying to have that outward vision about, okay, where do we want to be? How do we grow? The larger high dollar technology that we utilize to grow. I'm good at managing people, and I'm good at managing processes, but I don't have the 20 years experience in recruiting that you do to see where it was to where it can be. And that's the focus as an owner. And then my job is to take all the day-to-day operations off of your plate so you can, but also implement those things to be successful.
Yeah, and you've done a great job of peeling the work off of me. I know, you know, obviously there's stuff that you've had to peel off of me with force and stuff I've willingly given away. And but I have felt the vision of our company and just being able to see further into the future. What I've felt personally here is just the leadership structure that you've brought across all the entirety of our organizations, and it's been of tremendous value. And but there's people like me out there. There's executives that are struggling to grow their businesses, and they're trying to find a way to do that. And if they were going to go about hiring like an executive veteran for themselves to help inject into their company, it could be a president role, a general manager, general leadership management. How would they go about doing that? What would be the best process for them in veteran hiring, and where would they start?
Well, there's about 180 to 200,000 veterans that get out of the military every year, and obviously that's very broad in the stages of experience and management and leadership and so on and so forth. But there's also about 50,000 nonprofits and federal agencies out there to support companies to find and hire veterans. If you're going to look for a president or somebody at that particular level, I think you're going to want somebody who's been out for a little bit, for at least 5 years, 10 years, to be able to come in and has that commercial experience. Big difference between working with people in the military that don't have the option to quit, and then coming into an organization and trying to use that same level of leadership style, which there is a difference between the military and the civilian public. You can't come in here and it's do as I say, not as I do attitude. It doesn't work like that. I know for me, whatever rules and policies we have here, I make sure to follow them to the letter myself, because I expect everybody else to do what they're supposed to do. You've got to be the example. But yeah, I would be looking for a veteran that's probably been out 5 to 10 years.
In the 5 to 10 years out, that's because they've been able to kind of get baptized into the private sector, learn kind of how to, going from the environment of you can't quit your job to you can quit your job, and then how developing those a little bit of, is it more that retention or softer skill approach, you think, or what's the
soft skills?
Yeah.
And not saying that the military doesn't breed soft skills within, because they do. I mean, we can't have mass exodus of people getting out when their time is up on the enlisted side. There is a level of high expectation for veterans when they get out, that they think that they're going to walk into a job that pays them $100,000 or $200,000 salary, and that's not the case. They still have to come in and understand that they don't fully understand that business line. And I tell veterans when they get out and retire or whatever, be honest in your expectation and try to find an organization that has leadership opportunities. If you're going to go into a company that's, say, 5 people, there's not a whole lot of room for growth within that organization. Now, Core Group was different. We obviously scaled very quickly. But I came in considerably lower than where I'm at right now and put in the time. As long as a veteran understands the company that he's going to go into, the leadership opportunities, and when I talk to different HR professionals, that's very important to a veteran when you're looking to hire one. You've got to really give them a path to see where they're going to be at 2-3 years down the road. Not necessarily where they are right now, but if there's no pathway, retaining that veteran is usually not likely. They'll move on to somebody else.
That you're tapping on something very important there. So when you joined us, you came in at a certain level, and then you've grown up to the president level. But it took you, 3 years of market knowledge and understanding the business to have comfort to take the helm. Yeah. So for veterans getting out, your recommendation to them is, hey, don't get caught up on trying to become president right out of the gate. Take like an ops manager level role so you can learn the business in the town that you want to live in, but then be mindful of the company's ability to map out your career progression from within over a 3 or 4 year period as well. Yeah. And if they don't, the message to the CEOs, if you don't map out the progression, you're going to train someone up and lose them to someone who will. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. So there's about 3 to 4 factors that determine whether you're going to keep a veteran or not. And that's one, there is a price point, and it's really kind of meeting where they were within the military, which in my opinion aren't really high price points. 2 is culture fit. Culture is a huge one, because in the military, you're almost protected to a degree, and the culture within that is very like your brother, your sister atmosphere. And that's not necessarily always the same on the outside. So having potential other veterans that are in your organization to help mentor and build those bonds within the organization is important. And potential benefits that maybe certain veterans need. You know, I spoke last week at an HR convention to a bunch of HR professionals and used the dreaded word PTSD. Well, there's a very broad assumption on levels of PTSD, from the guys that literally can't function and get a lot of anxiety being around people, which generally are not looking for work, to those that experienced significant combat like myself, and you could be diagnosed with a certain level of PTSD, but by no means does it mean we're going to come in with a gun and start shooting everybody up. It doesn't really work like that. But affording them the ability to go talk to somebody when they need to, outside of the work environment, being a little bit flexible in the schedules sometimes, but understanding most veterans will understand that there's a job to be done and they're there for a specific purpose to help that company grow.
And so you're saying kind of that purpose, that higher purpose in the military, which is God and country. Yeah. If you're a CEO of a company looking to hire veterans, you need to have your core values, your purpose, your mission statement all clear so that they can bind into that if they're going to enter at a lower level to kind of move up within the organization. One thing you tapped on is like, you know, combat and execution. That the one thing I felt with you is just it's pure form execution, the ability to deliver and execute very quickly on whatever the business needs are. And I think that execution is rare to the speed and velocity. Can you talk to, you know, being in combat execution and business execution, and kind of what the parallels that you see when the business needs something now? We had a legal issue yesterday that was pop, 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 boom, done, and we closed the gate all inside of like 2 business hours, right? Can you speak into that, just that execution transfer?
Post 9/11, you're not going to find too many veterans at any level that wasn't involved in, I guess, some level of combat. And even if they're not in a direct combat unit, they at some point probably experienced bombs raining in on the, you know, say the green zone in Baghdad, to being shot at while they're traveling from one forward operating base to another. So the level of stress from from the military to a civilian environment is considerably less. In executing in what some people would consider a very stressful situation is pretty easy for most veterans. I don't get too wrapped around the axle with things within the organization, especially things that you can't control, but there's most things you can control. And everybody in the military is given some level of training in strategy and how to execute on something. And as they say in business, time is money. You know, you can sit there and strategize on something forever, but at some point you got to make a decision and move on it. I'm not asking for the best decision. I'm asking for a decision to be made and executed on, and then be flexible to make those adjustments and changes. Don't make decisions that are catastrophic to the company. Those decisions, yes, you have to make time, but very, very few decisions in life constitute life or death like they did in the military. So everything on this side, in my opinion, is
way easier.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah. We come into market combat together all the time, and you know the jujitsu we're doing. We're pretty level-headed as we're executing and putting fires out, and so it's been a joy to work with you on that. Is there any final words that you've got for this time, and any message that you want to send?
For companies that are looking to hire veterans, it's a struggle understanding that when you're interviewing those veterans and just say initially you're going through the resumes, it's hard for a veteran to generate a resume that say hits all your wants and needs within your job description. And I would say if they're even close, it's absolutely worth bringing them in for an interview, because I think most veterans are going to be able to articulate what they can bring to the table versus putting it on paper. Second, to the veterans, I kind of elaborated at the beginning, networking is key. I will say I did not move into any position that I ever did through submitting my resume into what I call the black hole abyss of a lot of companies. It was through having a connection with somebody who knew somebody. So if you're a veteran getting out or have been out, there's so many veteran organizations and networking opportunities that don't cost a dime for you to get yourself out there. And then again, for those companies, veterans can bring a lot to the table, especially on the leadership, the process improvement, the safety aspect, because that's drilled into us. There's a lot they can bring to the table.
Awesome. Well, Matt, appreciate your time. It's an honor to work with you every day, and thank you for your insight into veteran hiring and also being here as a veteran leading our company. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome.
So.